Hello, Internet. For once, this is me who's hosting the thing with the two people I have here with me, because usually I'm on their end of the Internet. And today we will be doing a small, somewhat of a celebration of mine, because finally my world is entering slowly but surely the Anglosphere. And also, I wanted to talk a bit with art and culture with the two guests I have here today. So from left to right, I will start with Ginger, who is a bearded friend, a bearded colleague who like playing game with dwarf and rocks most of the time, from what I've heard. Am I correct, Ginger?
Indeed. Rock and Stone Brothers.
And on the right we have Yiz, who has a YouTube channel which I'm sometimes invited, and I always have a delightful time on this. And it's a bit more complicated to explain what you do, Yiz, because you touch so much different theme and different topic. But mostly, I think we can say that you try to do your part in the path toward a better future for humankind. Something like that?
Something like that. I like to talk, I like to entertain, and I like to encourage people to make wise choices and to enrich the world around them. And I came to all of this about 10 years ago when I started realizing that we were being lied to about everything, and there were a bunch of evil people in control of government, media, and corporations and such that wanted to lie to all of us and gaslight us into financial ruination and destroy our civilization. So I sort of picked up the torch and wanted to help people recapture their destiny by building community. And I
Yeah, I'm
think that
showing your
there
YouTube
needs.
channel there, and
Oh,
yeah,
I see. Yeah.
there is
Thank you.
a strong incentive on building community and
Mhm.
stick tight, stick
Yeah,
together.
and I encourage people to speak the truth and to not lose heart in the face of all of the um the destruction of personal identity and cultural identity, because you know how the media does, how Disney and corporations and governments, they're explicitly anti-male and anti-white and anti-everything, and they want everybody just to, you know, wave the pride flag and take the vaccine and all this other stuff, and I just got sick of it. So I do my best to encourage people to build their lives accordingly, to enrich the things around them, to heal themselves, to speak the truth, and to do things that matter, and to avoid the cancer of modernity. And a big part of that is creating positive culture, like good artwork, good stories, and that's one of the things that I like about you is you're writing genuine, awesome, dark fantasy fiction
Sure.
that isn't part of some corporate or political agenda or whatever, and doesn't have all that stupid crap shoehorned into it.
I just want to make good stuff. That's all I want. And I
Exactly.
appreciate that you try to be a bit more tame with your word on my YouTube channel, because I was like, oh, I see where we're going.
No, I do my best to speak tepidly, because I'm not, despite what the media might call people like me, I'm not an extremist. I don't want crazy things. I just want things to be what regular people would consider normal again. And
I don't know, you managed to scare my friends off without even saying a word to them that one time. So
oh, I
I'd
did.
say
I
you're
don't
pretty.
remember that.
I'd say you're pretty scary, but all things considered.
Well, it's and I don't know. It's easy to scare people away when just for having the wrong opinion, you can lose your job and the government will take your kids away. So I can see why
Mhm.
somebody who likes to speak the truth is scary these days.
Utterly terrifying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
But
I've given you the laser eyes because I forgot to do the small modification. So
ooh,
yeah.
nice.
I try to be a more clear with who is speaking and when this person is speaking. So you Ginger have laser eye too, to better see and strike the
Yes,
rock and stone.
I spotted the laser eyes. That's certainly an intimidating factor. I'm sure that'll help next time I delve deep into the mines.
I would have to pick the game one day and try it, but it's a bit too grindy for me. It's like there
Oh,
is.
Deep Rock Galactic isn't. Deep Rock Galactic is grindy.
No,
Nothing like
what he
Warframe.
means is it's a grindy kind of game. Like I think I
Yeah,
think
you
Christopher
just
probably would prefer.
repeat every single map every single time, more or less doing the same thing with the same gear, and it's like Vermintide
Oh,
and Left 4
I
Dead.
suppose.
Right, it's that kind of game. I don't think that he cares for that kind of game.
Yeah, and yeah,
Fair
so
enough. Fair enough.
I picked up the Starship Troopers because it was more fun and there is more variety in the thing you do. But yeah, for Vermintide and Deep Rock Galactic, it's just repeating everything all the time.
Hmm.
So
Well,
speaking of, yeah, speaking of
go
culture,
ahead.
this is my stream. Yes, I am the boss.
I was just going to help us along with the segue, but you're on top of it. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yes, I am always on top. I'm not a bottom. But yeah, to because we don't have much time with you, Yiz, unfortunately, and you are the more or less the star of the stream. You are the most famous person here today. So I will take a full advantage of that. But both of
Okay.
you, are you like avid reader or consumer of artistic entertainment? Since the goal of this stream is at least partially to have the start of my book in the Anglosphere, and we will have a section afterwards with Ginger reading the text in question. And so how familiar and how much of a consumer of entertainment product are you, both of you?
I'll go first. I am not anymore. I read science fiction and fantasy fiction when I was young in the 80s and then some into the 90s. I became very involved in role playing gaming, Battletech, 40K, Dungeons and Dragons, World of Darkness, all that good stuff in the 90s. And so I started creating my own stories and reading stories, settings, all that scenarios, etc. in gaming fiction. So instead of sitting down and reading novels, I read hundreds and hundreds of gaming books. Things for I don't know, everything from setting books for GURPS and Rift World. Rifts. Things like what's some other stuff that's esoteric? Some people might not know about. Shadowrun, I read a lot of that. Old Cyberpunk from the early 90s. Battletech, Mech Warrior, Earth Dawn. And
Wasn't there that dragon space-based one that you mentioned to
Oh,
me a while
Dragon
ago?
Star. That's not until later. That didn't come out till the aughts, after the D20 explosion. I'm talking about in the 90s. So for the last 25 years or so, I haven't really read novels. I like fantasy fiction, movies, comic books, and stuff. That stuff's cool, but I wouldn't consider myself an avid reader or consumer of that kind of product. For the last 20 years or so, I really only consume gaming products, which are adjacent to fantasy fiction of the novel form, because it's taking stories and heroic arcs and villain arcs and playing with the stuff that makes a wonderful fantasy novel, but putting it into setting rules or an encyclopedia or a glossary that you can use to build role-playing game adventures out of. So that's what I've consumed the most, just reading about people's characters and world design and that type of thing. So I got out of the habit of reading proper novels, but I still consider myself adjacent to that because of how I've invested myself in gaming fiction. So that there you have it. That's my best answer to your question.
Yeah, but if you are, for example, fond of some setting, I don't know, for example, Game of Thrones, for example, you've watched a bit of the TV show on the screen, but you don't have time or the interest of reading the books, you can go, for
Yes.
example, on a wiki page or on a forum, on something like that,
Mhm.
and read some of the lore and the blurbs and the background. So it's not
Right.
reading the book, I grant you that, but it still somewhat counts in reading. For example, on my end, I'm a fan of manga and anime, so I read some of manga and anime. So technically, I'm a reader. I know it's not
Mm.
like an actual novel or something. This is another level of reading, but still, it's not like you are not someone who enjoy reading good stories. You know what I mean?
Yes, I do, and it's not. And one of the reasons that I don't read a lot of novels is I have ADHD. I don't take medicine for. I'm supposed to, but when I do, it makes me feel numb and disconnected from everyone. So I don't take that medicine. And the only thing that not taking the medicine does for me, it makes it very difficult for my brain to focus on long form story content page to page.
Mm.
My mind wanders and I can't focus on the story. When I read little snippets like a glossary or an encyclopedia, my mind doesn't wander and I don't have internal disconnect mentally. And that started to develop in me really bad as a teenager.
Have you
So that's
tried
another.
audiobook?
Yeah, I listen to some audiobooks, but that's only for nonfiction because
Mm.
I'm engaged in the culture war. So basically, most of my free time I spend listening to dead racists of the 1800s and early 1900s.
So technically, again, it still counts. It's not reading, but it's like you are invested in a book-like product. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
For example,
Hmm.
in video game, and you spoke about it, and I'm also like a more or less past gamer because I game less and less with the time. But
Hmm.
I remember with fond memories of it too when I was playing some very engaging RPG game or something like that, when you found, for example, log or mails from two characters in the setting exchanging
Hmm.
messages, or like a letter or the newspaper, and I remember reading it. And so even if you are gaming, you are also reading in a way.
Yeah. Hmm. Yeah. Okay, I can see that. So I mean, I do consider myself then, I guess by that definition, a reader, but
Mm.
I'm not good at reading long form fiction.
Yeah, no, I have the same. Most of the time, I'm uncomfortable on my chair with the paperback book. I'm one of those heathen who prefer PDF file on the phone and stuff like that.
Well,
It's a preference of for everybody.
nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. And you, Ginger, how are you in the entertainment gluttony side of things?
Well, this is probably something that you're going to be quite surprised about, but believe it or not, I actually do basically no reading personally. I have a small collection of books that I quite literally have on my shelf as unread, but being saved for in the event there's some multiple hours long, or maybe even days long power cut up here in Scotland. But for myself, um, the last time I read a actual physical book was when I was in probably my early teens, and I read through the 7-part series that is the what's it called? The same books, the same book series that the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe is part of. What's Chronicles of Narnia? That's it.
The
There we go.
Chronicles of
Oh
Narnia,
yeah,
yeah.
Alice
Yes.
in Wonderland guy. Yeah.
Yes. C.S. Lewis is his name.
Yes,
C.S. Lewis,
he
yeah.
was a close friend
I
of
read.
Tolkien.
Hmm.
He was. He was. The two of them actually got along quite well, and they often consulted one another for advice on how to progress their own stories.
I read most of
Big
Narnia when I
fan
was a
of that.
youngster. It was quite good.
And Narnia
Big fan of
is
Narnia myself.
more it's way darker than people assume it to be.
Hmm.
It is. It is.
It has very. Yeah, go ahead.
There's a lot
Sorry.
of existential aspects about the Chronicles of Narnia. Like there's an entire part in the Chronicles of Narnia known as the Silver Chair, during which there's an entire sequence during which there's the prince of the eponymous Narnia who has been, for all intents and purposes, kidnapped by an underground race of mind warping entities that have managed to set this individual into a kind of cursed existence where he's in a perpetual state of bliss, only to spend a couple of minutes every night screaming for help as this curse of deadened instincts and mind is reaffirmed. And it's quite the harrowing read. You're a little
Yes,
kid.
and
It had quite the effect.
I will not spoil it, but the ending of all of the books, the book series, is quite grim.
It is certain. But Aside from that, I've also read what is apparently the antithesis to the Chronicles of Narnia in the form of a book series known as I think it's like something along the lines of His Darkest Secrets or something like that. It's the individual novels are The Golden Compass, The Subtle Knight, and a third one whose names escapes me. But those are also
The
a
Golden
set
Compass is with
excellent.
the big polar bear.
Yes, that's the one.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
was
yeah.
part of the that's a rather hyped. His darkest his Dark Materials series. That's the one. Thank you, Callum Dayton in the chat there.
Yeah,
Yes, that's
they
the
made a movie, but they didn't
true
follow
novel
up.
that I
They
saw.
made only one movie, which was
Yeah,
from what I've read from the fan, it was like
the
butchered
Amber
to some
Spyglass is the name
degrees.
of the third one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've read the book and I've read all of the books, and for all intents and purposes, the movie that they made out of the Golden Compass was, to a large degree, a very poor rendition. The visuals were very beautiful. They did
Yeah.
a good job with the visuals, but most of the aspects of that story which really drew you in were cut out for the sake of
The only thing I
presumably
remember
appealing to a wider audience.
the only thing I
But
remember that was good and impressive was when they cut out the link between the girl and her totem animal thingy, and you could feel in the screen and in
yeah,
the scene like it was like a murder of her baby or rape and all of that kind of nice stuff all into one. Like it was
yeah,
essentially a murder sentence.
it was again quite a harrowing thing to experience as a child reading that kind of text. But probably the biggest downside about the fact that they made the Golden Compass movie is that they didn't make one for the Amber Spyglass or for the Subtle Knife, which, in my opinion, were far more interesting and compelling stories.
I
But
don't
anyway,
even know
aside from
those
that,
movies.
those were the sequel books
Hmm.
to the Golden Compass, the Amber Spyglass and the Subtle Knife. The Subtle Knife is the second, and the Amber Spyglass is the third in the series. Basically, they revolve around a knife capable of allowing the wielder to kind of go dimension hopping, if you will, by literally using the knife to cut through the fabric of reality in order over to alternate realities. And the Amber Spyglass mostly follows the stories of characters introduced in the first two books, whilst also focusing on this entire alternate reality Earth in which the dominant species is this primitive kind of elephant elk style creature that has the ability to have a almost symbiotic relationship with these gargantuan trees, the essence and sap of which is it gives mortal creatures the ability to be able to perceive other reality, gain an
That
almost
sounds really interesting. What's this
life-based
called
being.
again?
His Darkest Materials. It is a genuinely it's a really good read.
That sounds fascinating. I'd like to look into that.
Yeah, it's highly recommended,
Yeah,
honestly.
and
Probably even more so than the Chronicles of Narnia now that I think about it.
hearing you two talk about the thing you enjoy and some of those things, it reminds me of something I've read quite often, to be honest, on the internet and in the art sphere, or like create people who are creative. It's something like we are more or less in a dark age of entertainment and art. Like like we lost something along the way or something like that. Do you agree with
Hmm.
this assessment? Like, was it better before, or are we just old grumpy people?
Hmm.
I
See, I
think
wouldn't say that there are. You go first, yes. I've been
Yeah, yeah,
talking for a
yeah.
while.
I
Ladies
think
first.
you're very kind. I think that when it comes to there being great fiction, the reason why it's different now is before internet, before mass communications, for something to be known in a big way, like a Tolkien or a Scorsese movie or something grand like a great work of art, it
Or
had to be truly
I've rewatched
it.
Jaws recently. Like we don't make that kind of
Sure,
movie anymore.
right. That's a Spielberg. He created the concept of the summer blockbuster with the
Yeah.
Jaws movie. Exactly. Now there's two. That's one element of what I'm about to say. One element of why I don't think that we have quote unquote great things that we have to talk about anymore is because with the proliferation of social media and the proliferation of person to person sales, person to person trade, combined with the tools of technology, thousands upon thousands of people are now able to get their artwork, their writing, their music directly out to whoever's interested. That's both good and bad. Number one, it's good because you have the ability for people creating genuinely beautiful, interesting, wonderful new kinds of art able to make their art, make their indie films, make their indie games, write their stories, get their game settings, their whatever it is they're creating out there. But it's also bad because with that low bar of entry, you don't have the necessity of having to fight and strive to be successful and influence people and rub elbows with others to get yourself in the door with publishing companies, with corporate studios. So it allows the absolute garbage to float to the top of the already existing structure that used to promote genuinely good things. So you have the little guy now able to say, "Oh well, screw all that stuff. I don't need to have to move to L.A. or New York to get my stuff published. And screw all this crap. I hate Hollywood. I hate Disney. I'm just going to make my artwork and publish it to 15 people on Drive-Through
My
RPG."
own
Or
casino with blackjack and hookers.
you're right. It's like I'm going to make my own casino with blackjack and hookers. Fuck all this. So you have so many people doing that it doesn't force them to have to go against the big machine of Disney and corporations and Hollywood and stuff. So they just keep farming the lowest, dumbest garbage over and over again. So that drowns out really good art being made at a small level so the masses don't get it. So it's both good and bad for there being good art. So to answer your question, yes and no. Yes, I do think genuinely great, inventive, new things are being made, such as your novels. But they cannot be big like things that were good used to be big because the entire ecosystem has
Yeah.
changed now.
It's
It's never
like
going to be the same again.
it's an fuck English observation I had previously when I
Mhm.
was early in my career. Like talent does not matter anymore, or at least so much less than it used to be. For example, I mentioned Jaws. Spielberg at the time wasn't a big guy.
Mhm.
It was not slow, very low on the food chain either, but he was not a big boy. Francis Ford Coppola with The Godfather, same, he wasn't a big guy. What's the name also? The director you love, John Carpenter, is now a
Mm.
legendary guy, but back in the day, even late in his career, he wasn't that recognized. A bit, but he didn't get big budget and large recognition that he has now.
Right.
So no, I think that what we lost, it's my take, my personal take, it's the respect of the craftsmanship. Like now we make movie and entertainment like we make candy. Like
Yeah.
it's a chain, you know, like you are one.
Like an assembly line making a
Yeah,
factory
exactly.
product. Right.
And
Yeah.
back in the day, it was like, give us money, trust us, and we will make something good of it, or at least we will do our damnedest to do that. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but now it's more like social media, investment, stock option. It's not
Hmm.
like it's not art. It's like almost like gambling, like casino. Like yeah, I have to bet on Marvel now. This is the hot topic of the day. Blah blah blah.
Well, I think a good way to put that in English would be there's no longer an industry around making art.
Yeah.
There is now an artwork to creating an industry about art. Because
Yeah,
when
sorry,
you
my
look
English
at
is a bit wonky.
oh, that's okay. No, it's a difficult thing to even say for native English speakers, but the art used to drive the industry around it. Now the industry that was built up around that only generates facsimiles, fake factory reproductions and recreations of the original artwork that made the industry big. So that's why we live in an era of decades of reboots and rehashes and restarts and all this other crap, where for the last 20 years, it's just these big studios with big money saying, "Oh, well, we saw that in the 70s and 80s and 90s, we saw the formula that leads to people buying a ticket and coming in the door. So we're not going to gamble anymore by giving millions of dollars to new artists that want to do new things. No, fuck all that. We're just going to spend the money we have to make re-editions of the same garbage that we know regular idiots will pay $20 a ticket to come see every week. And that way there's no risk involved and we're guaranteed profits." And so everything has become so corporatized and driven by profit that no one gives a shit in the industry about actual genuine artwork or promoting genuine art anymore. It's become just a turnover business instead of a business created around powerful artists like it used to be.
Yeah, yeah.
See, I have
you
a,
say it
I have
eloquently.
some.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that.
See, I have a take that leads into the point that years yourself. In any given scenario, in any given system where competition is expected, there will always be some entity that is able to perform slightly better than the rest of the competition. Given enough time and given enough opportunity, with little regulation or mitigating factors for success, eventually one individual will just simply outcompete his competition to the point of removing that competition entirely, generating a monopoly of sorts. The current entertainment industry that you see so prevalent in today's media is just the logical conclusion of one particular form of entertainment having gained that little bit of success and snowballed that success for literally the last 2 or so centuries, to the point where now there are very few gargantuan entities producing all of the mainstream entertainment, whilst preventing anybody who actually has the necessary talent to be able to compete with them from either being able to directly compete
Yes, you
or
are
be
true.
I
forced
agree
to
entirely.
think.
That's why I used the word
Yeah.
corporate earlier, because that's what
And they
corporations do.
even lock
They
up.
kick out and stomp down everybody else.
They even
Exactly.
lock up some IP. For example, I think I don't remember which one. I think it's Disney, but not sure. They acquired Fox, and so they acquire Alien. And the fans of Alien are waiting for a good Alien movie for like 20 years. And yeah,
Uh-huh.
it's locked up in a vault, like you cannot touch it. Even if you have like, I have a perfect idea, the perfect thing, it's all good. I just need like not even a big budget, and the big corporate are like, nope, fuck off.
Mhm.
So it's exactly like you say, you are locking up the competition and the healthy way of better yourself at a craft.
Pretty much. Eliminate the competition by either buying them out or just outright destroying them, until the only form of entertainment is a black little mermaid with chameleon eyes.
Ugh, don't get me started. I don't want to get Christopher's channel in trouble.
Yeah, when people
Well,
speak about the Little
all I'm
Mermaid,
going to say is that that actress, her eyes, they're like the stars, really far apart.
Really far apart with a vacuous nothing in between.
Perfect.
this is the movie I'm waiting. Speaking of the Little Mermaid, and is this the correct one? Yeah, this is the correct one. So this is the true Little Mermaid I'm waiting for.
Where are you posting this?
On the stream, it will appear.
Oh, I see.
Oh, yeah, I can't wait to see that either. It's going to be fun.
Yeah,
It's going to be fun.
I was speaking a tiny bit of it because yeah, it's dumb, it's stupid,
Oh, it's so dumb.
it's
Yes.
like Fast and Furious level of dumb, but it's
Yeah,
fun.
but it's fun though. It's
It's
it's the
fun.
fun kind of dumb. Like
Yeah,
there's a word for this in American movies called schlock. Do you know this
yeah.
word schlock?
No, but
It's actually
it's like
it
the
comes
movie
from
you
Jews, so I guess
watch.
technically it's a Yiddish word.
Yeah,
But
and for people who didn't see it, like there is a little dog later on the. I love it.
Mm.
I love the stupid thing they make with this IP. It's dumb, but it's fun. I don't know. It catch. It works. It's like I'm just watching it. Like, that's funny.
You know,
I love
you know what
schlock.
is a rare.
Schlock is one of my favorite kinds of movies where it knows what it is and it leans into it and it becomes funny. Like that's one of my favorite kinds of bad movies is
Yeah.
schlock, is action schlock
You
like
know
this
what is
movie.
a rare example of excessive Hollywood money, genuine talent, and just love of schlock comes together into the perfect storm of an excellent movie.
Demolition Man?
Pacific Rim.
Yeah.
Oh,
Pacific
Pacific Rim
Rim.
was fun. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
fun schlock.
The
Yeah.
first one. The second one was
Pacific
disappointing.
Rim.
I never saw the
Pacific,
second one.
Yeah, you
the
should know.
second one doesn't exist. Ignore
Yeah,
that.
yeah, you know that.
Okay.
Even the bird agrees. But the Pacific Rim, the one and only, like the storyline for that movie is
Giant robot
there
versus
are,
monster.
yeah, there are aliens and they're coming out of a portal in the sea. We'll nuke them.
What? Really?
Yes, yes.
Aliens coming out of a portal in the sea? What?
That's
Yeah.
Pacific Rim.
And it's
That's
Pacific
the
Rim.
sequel to Pacific Rim.
No, the
But the
first
No,
one.
first one
that's
that,
the original Pacific Rim.
Yeah, if you,
oh, that was the original. Wait, they were coming out of a portal?
you didn't
I didn't remember
Yes.
that. No, I don't remember
Yeah.
that. I saw it once when it came out in the theater, and then I forgot it a week later. No, I didn't remember that. No,
Trust me, yes.
I'm
People
old.
didn't go to see Pacific Rim for the story.
Yeah, no, it was just fun action schlock. But no, I did not remember that they were aliens coming out of a portal in the
At
bottom
the
of
end
the
of the
sea. I did not
movie,
remember
they
that.
they go in the depth of the ocean to close the portal.
Okay,
Yeah.
I
And
didn't remember
this is
that.
when they're like, "Oh, you have a sword."
Okay,
Yeah.
no, I just
Literally,
again,
literally the
I
only
forget
thing
movies
you
like
need
that
to
because
know
they're not
about-
worth remembering.
Literally, the only thing that you need to know about Pacific Rim is that a giant fucking robot takes a giant fucking boat and uses it to clobber a giant fucking sea monster to death.
With a boat.
And that is, yes, that is the only thing you need to know. The story doesn't exist because, let's be honest, it's nothing to write home about. Oh, also soundtrack. Oh,
Yeah.
oh,
Big PP.
Gypsy Day theme is it's good.
Yeah.
That is some good music.
Oh, good. I don't remember much about it. Like I said, I saw it the week it came out, and then I forgot it a week later. So I did not
Rewatch
remember.
it with your husband with a bunch load of popcorn and a pizza.
This-
And, yeah.
Maybe
This-
we'll see. We'll see. We do like dumb schlock action movies, so we might rewatch
Another
that one
one I
day. We'll see.
enjoyed in this
I
kind
might
of
be about
movie
to
was
say some.
Godzilla.
I might be about to say some sacrilege right here, but I reckon the Pacific Rim soundtrack, the music, I would rate it about on par with like the likes of the Lord of the Rings soundtrack. Like
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
so
a
you
completely
really love
different
it then.
genre, but it is so good. If you're familiar, if you're familiar with the term symphonic metal, that is a lot of the Pacific Rim soundtrack is.
Well, I'm
symphonic
not a
metal.
music person, so
Very
I
good.
don't really have a dog in that race, so to speak. But I do recall enjoying the movie and its music. But I've never listened to it since.
This is
I
I show
vaguely recall. Mhm.
I show on the screen my like big PP dumb movie that I enjoyed so much. It was Godzilla King
Oh.
of the Monster. And
Okay.
it
Oh,
was dumb.
yeah.
It was stupid, but oh yes, big monster fighting.
I would like to see more big monster fighting movies. I do
Yeah.
like those.
I
Those are fun.
imagine myself as
Like-
a kid watching like WrestleMania with Hulk Hogan like ah!
My favorite thing about the Godzilla King of Monsters movie was that one of the major criticisms from the professional critics,
Mhm.
professional in heavy quotation marks,
Right.
one of the criticisms was that they spent too long looking at monster fights.
Ah, fuck you.
That's
Yeah,
see,
I
I
know,
feel
right?
like the story gets in the way of the monster fights.
Yeah,
Obviously, there is
agreed.
more monster fight.
Everybody who claims to be a fan of what is known as kaiju battle movies
Yes, yes,
Mhm.
it's a
loved
Japanese thing.
that series.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a Japanese thing. Like actually, it's a full genre in Japan.
seriously is. I know that Pacific Rim and Godzilla King of Monsters are two truly epic movies. I highly recommend that you see both of them as soon as reasonably possible.
Yeah,
No, I told you I watched Pacific Rim when it came out. I have only seen clips of the fights in the Godzilla King of Monsters movie because I don't watch modern movies much anymore. Like
yeah.
almost never.
And this is a nice segue for next question I have on my list. Sorry
Okay.
if I rush a tiny bit, but I try to take as much profit possible from the small time window you have for us. Yes.
Okay.
Um, what why do you think that culture and art are so important, and to what extent are they important? Because I know that
Okay.
yes, you are a bit more like in a political leaning kind of activity
Hmm.
or thinking, and for Ginger,
Somewhat.
you are more like not a normie per se, but you are not like someone who read every single stuff you can on your favorite IP and spending time
Right.
reading and blah blah blah, and even with that in mind, we all three of us with different background, different kind of life, different kind of aspiration in life, we
Hmm.
all agree that art is important. But to you,
It is.
why?
Because for there to be a successful civilization, there must be a healthy and growing ethnos, a people, a culture, folks that will create more and sustain it and make it better going into the future. And the way that you have that is with legend, heroism, inspiration, and enshrining the values, inspirations, and mythology of the past that got you to where you are today. That's what artwork does. That's what things like movies and novels and songs and poetry and ballads and epics. That's what those things are for. So this is why I encourage people. If you care about the decline of the West, if you care about the anti-whiteism, the harm being done to the Western race, if you care about all of the anti-male things being done by feminism and all this stuff, instead of battling politically, I think that's a dead end. I encourage people to go into the culture itself and create positive culture, create communities, create a new church, create a new club, create a new gun club or book club or whatever it is that you're passionate about, and inspire and lift up people around you to create music and artwork and songs and video games. And they don't have to be political in nature. In fact, I think it's better when they're not. But the inspiration that comes to us from the thousands of years of culture and history that we have, it doesn't come to us from a politician. It doesn't come to us from a preacher behind a pulpit. It comes to us through the majesty of song and artwork and legend about heroes or inspirational stories about religious works, divinely inspired heroes, that kind of thing. That's what drives men to be real leaders of men and forge culture and create something that will last and create something powerful and good. And that is how I think we will defeat the paused evil cancer of modernity, is by uplifting and encouraging people by the same spirit of the West that got us to be so great in the first place. And so that's why I think all the artwork stuff and cultural stuff is the most important ground that we can all fight on. Because that is really where the heart, where the spirit of an ethnos, of a people lays, is with its mythology, with its inspiration, with its artwork, its culture,
So
its
it's
the
like you.
stories that inspire young men to become great men when they get older.
So you're saying that it's like the cement of civilization. Like we are human, the brick, but we need cement to stick together with the same story, the same dream, the
I
same
would
aspiration.
say I wouldn't use that metaphor. I would say that cultural artwork, creativity, song, mythology, all of that stuff, the artwork, religious and performative expressions that we make as a people, all of that stuff together is like the breath, the spirit, the chi of an ethnos of the West. And we have to celebrate that and carry that forward because all of the corporations, the governments, all these evil people, they want to blow that candle out. They want that little flame that's left in us to go out because then it will never be lit again. And that's why I think it's so important that we create and inspire and uplift and sing that myth, breathe that life into the next generation so that flame will live on to hopefully one day rise up and incinerate the bad guys.
With the WAG energy.
That's right.
Wow.
One day, one day, one day there's going to be another great crusade, and I just hope I live to see the start of it.
What's your take on all of that, Ginger?
On the on where culture's going.
Yeah, and why culture and art is so important for the human species.
I think art and culture is it's mainly important not for the entertainment purposes. That's important too. But it's mostly important for the simple fact that by getting personally invested in art, culture, and other such related things, it gives you a window to the soul of humans long past. Gives you the ability to be able to see their thought processes, see what was entertaining them in their times, see how they see the morals that they upheld and the morals that they were not particular fans of. You're able to it's kind of like learning history, except instead of just simply learning the events of certain major individuals, instead of just simply learning what happened in the history books, to that instead of just simply okay, no, I know how to describe it. It's like learning history, except history is written by the victor, so you only ever get one perspective.
Right.
When you indulge yourself in culture and art of past generations, you don't just learn one curated perspective. You learn the perspective of a whole wide variety of individuals. Individuals who made it their purpose to communicate not accurate information, but concepts of the idealized form of their own morals. And that is a perspective that is sorely lacking in today's. At the very least, respectable opinions are somewhat lacking in today's media.
Yeah, I understand that, especially today, since they try to erase history. Like, no, this doesn't happen. This wasn't like that at the time. Blah blah blah. And so they fiddle
They
with
do.
everything and modify everything. One fine example is the latest Cleopatra documentary.
Mhm. You see, they try to erase history by generating new information. But if you, by indulging in artwork, you're able to uptake information that cannot be reasonably suppressed by authoritative measures. Because what reason would any authoritarian nation have for, say, banning the Lord of the Rings? Why would anybody ever do that? Other than for blatantly nefarious reasons.
Mm.
Art and culture will always be there. And unless it is entirely lost, like some of the chapters of the of the great Odyssey and the Iliad, or classical of the classical era of storytelling. No, it will always be there.
So in
There
a
will
way,
always be.
you are.
Let me interject here. This is where I disagree with Ginger. I think that's a very hopeful, naive sentiment. Because we see the people that want to control the world right now. We see the people in charge. They're already tearing down our history. They're already trying to teach our children that history is wrong. They're changing names. They're changing dates. They want to entirely erase everything that happened in the past and inject what fits whatever crazy cockamamie narrative the New World Order people want to enshrine. And so that's why I don't agree with you. I think that it's critically important that we use the cultural expressions we have to make sure people like us can gain power and control over our civilization again, because it only takes one generation broken from the chain for all that we were to be lost and replaced by what evil people do when they just entirely wipe away what is known about history and replace it with just propaganda and fake shit. So that's why I think that it's not entirely accurate to say that art is not going to be like political history, because they want to change all of that too. And so I think that not up until the modern era, they haven't really had the ability to do that. But with technology, they can. Why do you think they want to make everything digital? So it can be doctored. So it can be what's the right word? Cultivated towards the vision they want, and then they will wipe away everything that doesn't fit what they want. And that's one of the things that's scary about the modern era, is they're trying to move everything digital, and then in a generation or two, and then they control everything. And it's impossible to look at old books or old artwork when everything's just, binary on a screen. But then again, I mean, I'm not trying to blackpill you guys. I'm just saying that I think that while what Ginger says is kind of true, we live in an entirely new time now. I know that there were empires and conquerors of the past, but they weren't these psychotic managerials that want to just use technology and finances
to want to know your location.
to completely shape the world and create a new kind of human being as a slave race that they can control. Like, this is an entirely new thing that we're facing right now. So I don't know. Let me try
re-articulating my point in a much more simplistic way. If history is the means by which information from the past is conveyed, then culture and art is how morals are conveyed in history.
Okay.
What you are saying, it remind me, both of you, by the way, remind me of what we had on your stream years about the possible future or direction of humankind, and all of what you say remind me of what we kind of all agree, that equilibrium was one of the possibility.
Yes, I do think that is a definite possibility for where we're headed if people like us lose. And it's a very scary thing to think about. But you see the people in charge right now. They want your children to be medicated. They want males to think that everything masculine is toxic and dangerous, so they want to feminize the males. They want to hypersexualize the females. They want an entire, this is why I despise the concept equality or equity, because there can never be such a thing in a natural world. Yeah. And so everything that the people who want diversity, equity, and inclusion desire is completely anti-nature. It's against what we are supposed to be. And equilibrium's a good example. They want to wipe away anything that can inspire a person to be anything other than just a baseline machine designed for the function of labor and to perpetuate a machine. Yeah. And I think this is why equilibrium is a much more realistic picture of the future than other dystopian fiction like Atlas Shrugged or Matrix and that kind of thing. Because equilibrium, you can easily see we're headed towards that now.
Yeah, you should not feel strong, you should not feel anger, you should not feel anything like a rush of testosterone or something. You have to be mellow, you have to be politically correct, no feeling. Some art pieces are not good, censoring, blah blah blah. And The
Yeah, you
scene
can see that
when
with the transgender movement and with the psychology movement. The pharmaceutical companies, they want everyone to be depressed, transgender, etc., because they want you to be pathologized and institutionalized, so your human condition and how you function is controlled by the pills they give you and require you to take. We're already seeing this happen to millions of people, especially with antidepressants. But they want to do it with everything else too. Hormone stuff, all the other crap. They want people to be controlled easily, and their emotions, even their minds, controlled with the things they're required to take. That's why they want control over food and medicine and everything else. Is they want us to be livestock on their farm.
well, Ginger, you have something to add, or we can move to the reading part of the stream?
I have nothing in particular to add now.
I'm sorry if I rush a
This is
tiny bit, but yeah, I want to take full advantage of this time, and we are more or less at the end when she had to go, so.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's normally this time of day I'm doing stuff with people, but I put aside an hour to be with you, Chris. I'm doing my best to help you grow and getting
Yeah, no,
invested
I
in the
love it.
Anglosphere and
I
all that.
love you!
You're sweet. I love you too, friend. But thank you for having me on today. If you stream at a different time and I'm able to, I'll be glad to give you more of my time. But unfortunately, I do have to head out. Ginger, a delight as always, my friend. I'll see you in a day or two, I'm sure. We'll probably even play some
Oh,
Warframe
yes.
together later this weekend.
Most likely.
Alrighty. Well, Chris, thank you again. I hope you guys have a wonderful stream, and I wish you the very best. And I'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, and thank you again, yes, for coming, and always a pleasure, and hopefully next time you will have a bit more time for us.
I hope so too, friend. You guys have a great weekend. God bless.
Bye-bye!
Talk to you later, yes.
So, since the rock superstar has left the stream, we will stop the stream, so thank you for coming all. See you later. There is no point to continue without his. No, but seriously though, yeah, I tried to take full advantage of the small window she had for us, so we can hear, as always, somewhat black pill, but otherwise quite wise word and ID. So yeah, it's always nice to have her on stream, and yeah, I wanted to make sure that she had the opportunity to speak on various and different topics. But now, since unfortunately our dear white positive friend has left, Ginger, can you give us the pleasure to hear your lovely voice with a nice text?
I would be happy to, but in just a moment. I just have to pop to the loo, so
Yeah.
I'll be a minute.
So, chat, do you plan on leaving since he has left? Or will you be so kind to stay and stay a while and listen? If you catch this reference. I would be curious. Is people here ever spotted this reference of stay a while and listen? I give you a hint, it's from a video game. A very old video game. I can maybe make you hear that. The phrase stay a while and listen.
Stay a while and listen.
Yeah, this was the bit. I think I can even find an older one.
Hello, my friend. Stay a while and listen.
Alrighty, I'm back now.
Oh, nice, Prime. Nice. So you are ready, mate?
So, Yes, I think I am.
So,
Is there anything that you'd like to say before I start, or shall I just get straight into it?
people, give money, please. Thank you.
Well, fair enough.
Oh, thank you, Stormy, and thank you, Arden, for sharing the stream. Thank you very much. It's very kind of you. So yeah, now
I'm going to move my...
you will all enjoy Ginger voice reading my new upcoming short story, which is like a standalone short book who explain a part of my more grandiose universe.
I'm going to move my mic nice and close to the mouth so that you get the full impact of my voice.
Full ASMR.
Chapter 1. In the Face of Fear. The barrier betwixt the known and the unknown, frail and forever bending beneath its own weight. Lost within the mind, invincible protection, where only our courage reigns as king. Oh, Christopher, I have just had a thought. Maybe a good idea for you to bring up the text of your own story so that people can read along at the same time as they hear me speaking. But, carrying on. For millennia untold, the dwarves had roamed the continent. As they explored further, the wonders of the world unfolded before them. The decline of the once all-powerful clans and families had been a boon to the dwarf race as a whole. The reign of Ava, the first king, guided by the counsel of the spider goddess Torhua, ushered forth an era of profound civic, technological, and demographic advancement. The people thrived like never before. Now, nearing the end of his long life, nearly 3,000 ponderous years, the sovereign appeared less often in public. Most of his edicts and mandates were conveyed through his inner circle via proxies. But who would succeed Ava? Nobody knew. He had no heir, and he had never desired one. He had never married, despite the countless pleas from his court. Just wait for the apparent Formula One contest to drive past my house.
Yeah, it happened, unfortunately.
What the hell? It's not usually that bad. Apparently, everyone here gets a special experience. Anyway, carrying on. I have no need of children. With all of you, I already have more than enough. If I could be spared once more, it will be for the better, he declared to anyone who cared to listen. Torhua, the spider goddess who had taught so much to the dwarf people, seemed to find delight in this statement. Whether she approved of the king's choice or merely found the remark amusing, no one could tell. Nevertheless, as time passed and the king aged, all wondered who would take the throne after him, while behind the scenes, bets were being placed. Since Ava's ascension, Marak had become the capital of the kingdom. While other cities vied to be the greatest, the wealthiest, and the most beautiful, Marak had remained a relatively modest city. Its expansion owed much to its favorable location, its land populace, its human capital, and its countless artisans. Unlike Karan, further to the east, near the great mountain range that divided the world, Marak was not under the hegemony of any one family or dominant faction. The dwarves came to dominate most of the continent, although the elves were also a major force to be reckoned with. Only one mystery remained: the far south. A desolate, lifeless expanse that they had so far shunned. The argillaceous, acidic soil was barren save for a few withered trees and strange plants. Mutated flora thrived there, crossed between sprawling weeds and distorted blooms. Thorns struggling to bear the weight of its own blossoms, these plants would bend upon their stems. During an expedition that traversed this untamed region, aiming to reach the other side of the southern mountains, a curious soldier felt drawn to investigate this plant more closely. As he approached it, the flower came alive, convulsing aggressively in all directions, and ejecting a gelatinous, corrosive mucus into the air, with nauseating stench of rotting meat. This was but one of the many reasons that had led the dwarves to temporarily abandon the exploration of those hostile lands. Moreover, it seemed that nothing of value was to be found there, so they deemed it more expedient to push east and southeast, constructing a pass allowing them to traverse the mountains near Quran and reach the vast lands beyond this barrier of rock and stone. After several years of expansion into these new eastern lands, the dwarves built several villages and outposts, gleefully taking advantage of the new resources, particularly the wildlife, for in their homeland, the game was extremely scarce. The East offered them access to rich fauna and flora, but now everything was conquered, known, and catalogued. Only the enigmatic South remained uncharted, dubbed the Underworld. Within a building in the heart of Merak, in a repository holding the knowledge detailed in the accounts of thousands of years of dwarven exploration. Hang on just a moment. Don't worry, motor noises and the chiming of my clock won't be involved in the final version of the audiobook.
Yeah. But you could find a cuckoo, I think, in the building you were talking about.
Most likely, yes. Within a building in the heart of Merak, in a repository holding the knowledge detailed in the accounts of thousands of years of dwarven exploration, two dwarves conversed. Zerug, have you finished your report on the Malthor forest yet? Barok demanded. Almost there. I'm just adding some additional information that the goddess has provided. Why? Zerug replied. Because the king eagerly awaits it. Well, at least that's what our superiors claim, Barok said. And how many times do I have to tell you that I hate submitting work late? I understand, but I could really use a few more days. At least one or two, Zerug pleaded. I'll see what I can do, Barok sighed. Amidst the thousands of scrolls, maps, drawings, and a small group of dwarves worked tirelessly. The piles of documents grew inexorably as if they had come here to find their final resting place, forgotten, lost. Each day, hundreds of manuscripts and reports filled with vital information was processed, worked on, corrected, compiled, condensed, and eventually delivered to the highest authorities of the land. Now the archivists delved into the final chapter of the dwarves' odyssey, across the realms. Their expansive journey was nearing completion. Only the legendary Malthor forest remains to be described and given commentary. So I'd say here is a reasonable point to take a break if anybody has any questions for either myself or Christopher.
Yeah, that's a nice way of having a short break, like intermission. I forgot to specifically state it, but yeah, this is the drawing you see on the screen is the cover art of the book that Ginger is reading. And the
I
name...
personally haven't seen this yet.
Oh, I thought I'd share it to you.
I don't recognize it.
Okay, well, I'm sorry then. So yeah, this is the. I will give it a better resolution for you in DM 1 second.
I'd appreciate that. But yes, I'm the one who suggested. Well, let's less so suggested and more surprised Christopher with the idea of the dwarves having a Scottish accent. Um,
And so yes, the name of the book will be the Underworld, which is the part that if you catch it in the part Ginger was reading, the dwarf are very curious about the part of the world.
hmm, that's some brilliant artwork.
Thank you.
Those large insectoid style creatures. They remind me of somewhere half between the sandworms of the Dune series, as well as being at least somewhat inspired by the European earwig.
Yeah, the earwig was an inspiration, and also I wanted to have like especially the mouthpiece, like a flea or a tick or something like that, something a bit nasty.
Hmm. Anyway, it doesn't look like anybody has posed any particular questions to either of us, besides just apparently loving the sound of my voice and presumably wanting me to carry on. So
Yeah.
I think I shall.
Just 1 second. I will have for the people to see the map of the world.
Ah, good call.
That would be interesting for you. So it's in the bottom left part, the underworld thing. Sorry for the thing written on the map is in French, so yeah, sorry. There will be one
Well, no
English
one could be
version,
perfect.
but yeah, the thing on the bottom left, this is the underworld, and the dwarf occupy like half of the continent on the left. Uh, a question say what is Ginger's YouTube channel, and I don't think you have one.
I don't have one, no. I've always contemplated the idea of doing narrations of various stories, and believe it or not, this experience that you're listening to me read right now with Christopher here, this is actually the first time I've done anything along these lines. It's a success. Perhaps I'll have to start up my own channel and start doing a few more interesting bits and pieces.
Yeah, I think you will
After
have some
all,
success.
the people currently present are not the first to say that I have an excellent narrating voice.
Yeah, if you want, you can continue the reading.
Already. So, we left off with the explanation of how the legendary Meowthor Forest, as the only location yet to be given proper entry into the Dwarven archives. The dwarves had explored the forests to some extent, and it was found to be exactly as the Torrois had described it. Dark, perilous, populated by a myriad of strange creatures. The dwarves deemed it unfit to settle, and it was up to the two archivists to justify this choice with the utmost accuracy and with maximum precision. Zerug was a young dwarf. Well, young in comparison to the longevity of his kin. He was barely 150 years old. His kind could live up to 1,000 or even 2,000 years, sometimes even longer in rare exceptions. As their bodies bent more and more with age, it was not uncommon to see sages or master craftsmen sharing their knowledge or, on occasion, demonstrating their exceptional talents. Zerug remembered seeing an old clockmaker in particular, his trembling hands ceasing their uncontrolled movements as soon as he grasped his tweezers to assemble the components of a complex machine. After a 30-minute demonstration, and to the awe of the audience, A watch deemed irreparable started ticking once again. When asked how he had accomplished this feat, the old man explained to the young candidates who had previously attempted the task in vain, "These youngsters, they do everything wrong. They understand nothing. It's all about sequences and priorities. You idiots!" Zarug held deep reverence for the wisdom of the elders and their ability to ceaselessly refine their knowledge. They were true experts, unrivaled in their mastery. The young dwarf hoped that through his job, which he had acquired with the backing of an old comrade intimately connected to the court, that he could transmit his knowledge to the entire world. How could he make his stubborn, lazy, and self-centered kindred understand the vastness of the world and the untapped treasures it held? Zarug yearned to explore the world, especially the notorious Maltha forest, which he currently found himself documenting. As he described the trees, the fauna, the flora, the scents, and the atmosphere, he vividly imagined the place, conjuring images from the reports of the true explorers who had embarked on army expeditions and the accounts of the spider goddess Torhua herself. Unfortunately, few explorers were selected to venture into the field with each expedition, and even though he had tried his luck by adding his name to the long list of candidates, Zarug knew that he would never be chosen. While 8 adventurers were currently traversing the globe, he remained behind, confined amidst his stacks of paper. After countless hours of note-taking, Zarug finally set down his quill and massaged his aching wrist, allowing himself a brief respite from his task. With a heavy sigh, he sank into his wooden chair. The room was dimly lit by lanterns, casting eerie shadows of the towering stacks of documents which barricaded the archivist like a mountain of paper. He closed his eyes for a moment and imagined the forest he was detailing. The ominous encounters that had befell the soldiers, vampires, lycanthropes, massive stag beasts with towering antlers. One dwarf even swore that he had encountered an ogre, an immense, monstrous and demonic creature that had only been witnessed by sailors from the shores of the desert lands. Their towering size made them unmistakable, even from the dwarven ships anchored off the coast. According to Torhua's account, the second continent was predominantly inhabited by demons. As the information was relayed to the ship's captains and up to the highest authorities, it was decided that the continent would not be prioritized for colonization for the time being. It seemed inhospitable. It was too dry, too hot, and relentlessly swept by winds. Moreover, in the light of the menacing presence of those creatures, it was decided not to explore any further. However, a formidable naval presence was maintained along the west coast of the dwarves' realm to guard against potential threats, albeit they were highly unlikely. The dwarves believed that caution was the queen of virtues after all. Zarug found himself obsessed with the secrets that this new continent might behold. Was it truly a desolate expanse? Or perhaps did it mirror the underworld? Was it more akin to the dwarves' homeland, a land both demanding and capricious? In stark contrast to the dwarven kingdom, where rain fell frequently and in abundance, this distant continent appeared arid, constantly battered by hot, dry winds. In Zarug's homeland, the greatest danger came from the frequent torrential storms that caused significant damage, and sometimes even claimed lives. It had become imperative for his people to develop various techniques to safeguard their homes. In due course, mudslides became distressingly frequent, not to mention sinkholes, those menacing cavities that materialized capriciously, devouring everything in their path. Their unpredictability made them one of the most catastrophic natural disasters to afflict the realm. Each episode was deadly, with the potential for tragic consequences. Shall we take another break?
I think yeah, it's a nice time to do it. For the people watching, I try to have something on the screen for you to look at. It's a bit nicer, I think. So I try to
Oh,
show
yes.
some different thing. For example, I saw Chris Callum say, "No, Fat Belly, not a real ogre." So I show what the ogre looks like in my book, and here is the some kind of appendices. I have one list of symbols per book. So since I have 4 books, I have 4 lists of appendices, and so you can see the dwarf here, which is on the top right corner, the Yama, which is the one instance when they changed their name, so they didn't want to be called dwarf anymore. They decided to be called Yama, and this is the symbol of the dwarf then. The mountain top with the axe and the hammer. So yeah, as I stated multiple times on different stream and when people ask me question about my books, it's a very visually oriented piece of literature.
I've seen some of the more background lore oriented artwork that Christopher has demonstrated for his storylines, and I'll be honest, it's some truly impressive stuff.
Thank
Like
you, man.
there's a few there's one particular piece of artwork that I remember seeing, a piece between a gargantuan demon-like entity facing off against this grand dragon that's apparently vaguely spoilerish, but
Was it black and white?
it was, yes.
Yeah, yeah, I can show it.
But yes, it is a truly epic piece of artwork. The kind
Yeah,
of thing that you can see depicting the true apocalypse.
I think it was this one. Say if I am mistaken.
Let's wait and see. I'm following this along. Ah, yes, that's the one.
Hello,
Zoom in on that demon's head right there.
Yeah, I will enlarge the thing a bit.
God, just look at it. It's almost like a charcoal rubbing, but only it shows so much additional detail in its vagaries. The way the demon is looking up to this great entity that you can quite clearly tell it was not expecting as it domineered over this grand city-like entity. Or is this a military fortress of sorts?
No, it's the Elven capital. And this scene in particular was also one of the inspiration for the big demon figurine we had in the latest Kickstarter that unfortunately failed. But yeah, this was we made a figurine out of this scene.
This one of the people in the chat just made a very good point. It feels like that someone who exists within the universe of your novels actually penned this this artwork here, or perhaps it looks like by some twisted magic, a individual's memory of seeing this apparition for them mere moments before their death is projected for us to see, with the dark, twisted smokes of the demon dragon being visible in the abstract, but lacking any major detail.
Well,
It's pretty excellent.
honestly, it's more or less the apocalypse as you stated earlier. Like the city is in shambles, it's in ruin, like it's utterly destroyed to its core. And the thing in the demon grasp is the Elven King. and the dragon thing is trying to get to the rescue of the king.
I see.
So I will
Well,
not
there you go,
spoil
John.
furthermore, but yeah, it's correct and accurate to say it's the apocalypse, at least for the elf. And
Well, no one really cares about the elves, let's be honest.
I will try to show the figurine.
The elves have always have this terrible way of clinging onto existence, no matter how the universe tries to stamp them out.
Yeah. Oh, 1 second. Oh no, I can show this here. Here it is, the figurine.
Just waiting for the stream to catch up. There we go.
This was what we tried to do.
Hmm.
And here...
I assume you have that physical prototype in your own possession.
Well, it's a bit complicated, but the short answer is yes, I have, but it's in a new process of remaking it. And the long answer is no, I don't, because someone offered me to buy it. So we did a deal to sell the prototype. And to be frank,
Fair enough.
it helped a lot for all the money that I fueled into this project. That yeah, at least for the Kickstarter it didn't work, but yeah. So yeah, this was the big figurine we wanted to make.
It is quite the glorious thing.
It will still be available, but not the giant 45 centimeters high that we wanted to make, because it's too expensive. If I don't have more funding, I will not have.
Unfortunately, that was a little bit beyond my price range, or else I would have gone for it myself. I think if you were to aim for something that was about maybe 20 centimeters in height, and if you could also basically scale everything down by about half, I reckon you might actually get some decent attention with that.
Yeah, maybe, but it would. They would still have much money to pay for like the 3D skull, for like the 3D printing, and it would have be a bit cheaper, but it will not also that. If you cut the size of the figurine in half, the price will not be cut in half. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's not the material that you're paying for; it's the intricate detail work.
Yeah, and the expertise, the skills.
Of course, it is also worth pointing out that not everybody has a space on a shelf for a almost half-meter tall sculpture.
Yeah, that's true.
Anyway, I think I'll carry on with the reading and get through to the end of the first chapter before we stop again.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, we previously left off with me describing how the homeland of the dwarves was this terribly afflicted land that had been torrential downpours strike the area on a regular basis, and the amount of water often results in gargantuan sinkholes swallowing considerable portions of the land in the process.
Yeah, there are many natural disasters.
When contemplating the underworld, Zarug found it difficult to imagine a completely lifeless land, despite the reams of texts that he had read. How could that be? How could that be possible? Tests would need to be undertaken, studies conducted. How was it that no one had dared to venture deeper into it? Was there truly nothing there to be discovered? Could such an environment truly exist? Or were these reports merely a collection of flawed and incomplete information written by a wary army longing to move on to a more pleasant and verdant place? Zerug was snapped out of his reverie when his colleague Baroque returned. "What are you doing, for heaven's sake? And what's this cheese doing amongst the quills?" Baroque exclaimed. Zerug stood up, as best as he could in the cramped space, and stretched. My apologies. I had a bite to eat and forgot to put it away." "You really need to be more focused, Zerug. You're lucky that you're talented and meticulous. Otherwise, they would have replaced you by now." "Oh, come on, Baroque. I'm sorry, all right. Here, I'll put it away," he said, wrapping food in a dry cloth. "And what about the report on the Malheur forest? Do I have to bribe you with a wheel of cheese for you to finish it by tomorrow?" "Seriously?" he asked, intrigued by the promise of his favourite trade. "No, you idiot! I'm telling you to get back to work." "Ah, no need to be aggressive." With no choice, Zerug drove back into his work and he hurried to conclude his report. After compiling informative notes from diverse sources, he started crafting his presentation, focusing on the arguments presented by the explorer and the accompanying soldiers. His completed report served as a synthesis of different opinions, to which he added the advice of the spider goddess. He held a strong belief that this was a place of treasure troves of possible. Hang on, I read that wrong. Let me start that sentence again. He held a strong belief that this place was a treasure trove of valuable resources, particularly in terms of its abundant wood reserves. Moreover, the place was teeming with plants, fruits, and arable land, but the delicate balance of biodiversity was complex and fragile. The numerous hidden dangers of the forest would also have to be considered. Establishing a profitable and sustainable settlement in the forest could prove to be a daunting task. Ensuring the security of the settlers would be paramount, requiring abundant materials to construct and fortify their dwellings. The long journey itself would be perilous. If they felled trees or hunted certain animals to excess, it could disrupt the food chain and impact the forest's flora. For instance, what would happen if they scared away a predator's prey? Would the predator follow its food source elsewhere, or would it turn against the settlers? If the predator was to disappear, what would befall the other animals? Perhaps they would multiply unchecked. Rivers could alter their course, and plants could be overgrazed. In short, it was simply impossible to predict all of the consequences of establishing a colony in the area, and the cost of maintaining a settlement there would be astronomical. The risks were almost insurmountable at present, and cast doubt over the prospects of settlement in the future. It might be possible, but it seemed ill-advised to him. Zerug spent several more hours crafting his conclusions. After the final quill stroke, he took the document to Baroque, who was asleep in his chair, his hands hanging from his armrests, the quill almost touching the ground. Zerug cleared his throat, startling his superior from his slumber. Baroque feigned coming out of a short nap rather than deep sleep, and reached out to accept the heavy stack of papers that the archivist handed him. "And don't forget to fall asleep on the way," he said, unable to resist letting his colleague know that he had seen through his pretense. Baroque mumbled his way towards the exit, murmuring a mixture of incoherent mutterings. Zerug noticed his colleague's customary behavior, a long string of irritated complaints that Baroque failed to articulate due to his frustration. Zerug chuckled inwardly, put on his coat, and headed for the exit with a piece of cheese in his pocket. So that is the end of chapter 1, but as of today, there is considerably more of the text to go through with. And at this point, I do have to wonder if it would be worth going any further, considering at that point, there'd be relatively little reason for the people currently listening to actually invest themselves in attempting to either look into the audiobook or, even better, buy the novel itself.
Yeah. There is no. Well,
If you want me to carry on, though, Chris, I can.
well, I would be curious about the chat impression and commentary first, but yeah. First off, your reading is like fantastic. I would not start to compliment you because if I start, I will not be able to stop. But yeah,
Fair enough.
the introduction of the story is a bit. I would say that it's a bit heavy on exposition. I can reckon. But it's also important to know the universe beforehand and the character and the setting because it's so vast, as I think you can imagine of what I showed and what we already speak of in the stream. For example, the big dragon and demon fight. I show for now on the screen is the actual in the today's time the queen of the dwarf, which is called the girl on the screen is called Slakima, and yeah, she has a bit of a heavy story because she's like an adopted daughter, and the court of the dwarf and the noble and people like that are not very happy of not someone of royal lineage to access the throne, and so yeah, she faced multiple assassination attempts, let's just say that. But either way, yeah, it's for me it was important to have an introduction and a slow one at that, because if you get in a story like with heavy detail right off the bat, it's a bit like I don't know if it entices people to know more, of if frighten them a bit. It's always a choice, but I decided to go with the slow introduction type of story for this one at least.
Yeah, I've certainly been drawn in by the introduction. I'll be honest. It's a definitely a it's definitely a compelling way to get involved in the world as a whole. Although, do bear in mind, I am speaking as a dwarven supremacist about a story centered entirely around the dwarves. So perhaps there's an unfair advantage in this particular
You are
example.
biased in that matter, yeah.
Yes, just a little.
But yeah, well, it's in French, so you will not understand all the implication. But I can show you one thing, which is the timeline of the all of the history of the dwarf. Because the
Ah,
dwarf has a very thick history, like proper history, like the past and all of that jazz. And yeah, it's very dense, and there is many information. All of it is in French. I know. Sorry, but as you can see, yeah, there is many major events that had changed the fate and the course of the dwarven kind.
So I'm not going to ask for anything more than just this single point, but what happened on year zero within this timeline calendar?
Uh, I
What is
will
this?
I will do a proper translation. Let me check of how did I phrase that in the story. Because I know, of course, but I want to have a proper translation.
Hmm.
Oh yeah, so it's I do a proper translation word by word. survival of the Great War, disappearing of demonkind during the siege of the capital.
Oh, interesting. So humans are an extinct species in
No.
this setting.
No, they are not. They are still humans, but at that time, at year zero, they were a bit different. But they were human, but they were. I cannot say more, unfortunately. But the story you
Fair
read,
enough.
take part in the bottom right of the timeline. So minus 2,800.
So within living memory of some especially long-lived dwarves, then.
Yes, and of like archive books and history books and stuff like that. So the dwarf are today in the today's time full aware of what happened at the time. Well, at least the one who are allowed to know, if you know what I mean.
So I think if we're done with reading the actual written novels that has already been translated for now, I think, well, the stream's currently been going for over an hour and a half, so
Yes.
this would be a relatively good time to wrap things up.
Yes, perfectly, especially since as every day for now, I have a nurse who come to attend me because I have a bit of a wound that need to be taken care of, and they like to come very early. But yeah, chat, I honestly and sincerely hope that you enjoyed the reading of the superb voice of the Ginger King. I think I will name
Well,
you
thank-
that, the Ginger King. But yeah, it was
No, Ardent. He hasn't decided to go trans.
no. Especially since you know actually what I have, Ginger.
Yes, I know, but I'm not entirely sure if you're willing to share with the rest of your
I
audience.
am not.
Although, fair enough. In that case, I'll just say that he is a crippled man.
That's not incorrect.
Honestly, it's his. I suspect that his life expectancy has been at least halved. I would consider him maimed, quite frankly.
Well, I honestly hope you are wrong on that.
Look, I'm trying to get them to think that if they don't buy your book, you're going to die.
That's a nice strategy, but still. Fresh cursed. Yeah, I want Jew. Oh, man. Yeah, but sincerely, thank you very much, people, and yeah, most of all, thank you, Ginger, and thank Yiz, by the way, who were there for the beginning of the stream, and that remind us all that culture and art are very important, and they help shape the world, honestly, and humankind.
You know, Callum Dayton there in the chat has just suggested that I may have found a talent for narration, but what he doesn't know is that I'm actually an ex-DM for Dungeons and Dragons, having made my own D&D setting, run several games in it. As you could probably imagine, the fact that I haven't run a game for years now is something that a lot of my ex-players have largely regretted. But don't worry, I do intend to start that up again at some point in the I wouldn't say near future, but you know
Between
how
now
these
and
things
the
work.
end of the world.
Yeah, whichever comes first.
So, guys, thank you very much for coming. We will conclude the stream. And for the people who ask, yeah, can you give link? Can you give link? I don't have any link, but it's close to come, close to be published.
No. Actually, there is one link that I can give you to share to your audience here.
Oh.
Let me just go ahead and post it to you in DMs for the purposes of you showing. This is a link to a server in which you'll be able to find both myself and Diaz on a fairly regular
Oh
basis.
yeah.
It
I
is
was
it is called the Cabal, and the link here is cook.shortsfatotaku.com.
okay, I share it. But yeah, I was speaking about links for the for the book you were reading. I don't have one, but yeah. Aside from the joke on Dev, which I know nothing about the conflict and whatever. I'm not aware of this kind of thing. I was a bit.
Look, the only thing you need to know about the ongoing drama with Dev is that it's drama, and if you like drama, then you'll find it terribly entertaining. But otherwise, I'd say keep out of it.
One final question before we close. How spicy is this server, Ginger?
It has a degree of spice, but it's mild-mannered enough in there to attract my attention on a regular basis, so I wouldn't be too worried.
And on that note, we will bid you adieu, at least till the next time. Have a nice one, guys, and thank you very
Indeed.
much for coming. Bye bye.